Yo guys, while I've made different types of Tony Hawk type content here, and while I've had intentions and even began gathering data over the course of 2016 and 2017, I've never gotten around to making a year-end recap. So throughout 2018, we witnessed several other video projects and events. I concluded my Tony Hawk speedrunning study, the THPS Speedrunning based improv clan Fighting Mongooses put out another release spearheaded by clan leader and video editor Yib, Cise Neverender and CJ worked closely with several figureheads of the Thug 1 community to craft a well-produced Thug 1 beginner any % history video, and the Packle held what has been described as the last Tony Hawk's Pro Skater speedrunning marathon, at least for a while. And Packle even surprised me by making a Tony Hawk speedrunning study on yours truly. Super huge shoutouts to all these gents. I'll leave a playlist in the video description in case you guys want to watch all this juicy Tony Hawk content. Also want to give a shout out to Slate Man for the inclusion in his unofficial Tony Hawk book, Tony Hawk's Gaming Domination. It's actually a really neat look through all the games, companies that made them, and so forth. No slate to Slate Man whatsoever, because I doubt he would have possibly known, but normal and sick difficulties for literally every Tony Hawk game are super unoptimal and not nearly as polished as the easier, faster difficulties. It's got less activity, more work that needs to be done for combo refinement and execution due to points, more butt slaps, harder variants of goals, but regardless, really appreciate the inclusion. He didn't have to do that, so huge shoutouts to Slate Man as well. And really the difficulty thing is more of a commentary on us as a community than anything. Along with new content, there were also new categories. The absolute mindfuck of a category known as THPS 1 NG+. Using a pre-made save file with all 3 competition levels unlocked, the goal is to use Skater A to get 3 golds for Skater B. This is made possible by a soft reset mechanic found for N64 games by holding both A and Z for several seconds. Data for the game essentially stays loaded in, your progress on those 2 heats and even the end heat menu stays loaded, albeit invisible during the demo reel. Upon completion of each competition, you save and soft reset your console so the demo reel always begins with Bob Burnquist in Warehouse. A familiar face, Ness Kamikaze broke out a speedrun for the GBA port of THPS 1. Not gonna lie, I have no idea what's going on here, but check it out, and you might want to even bust out the old handheld and give this a try if you feel so inclined. Packle has formed many iterations of already existing categories for the notably different Xbox version of THPS 2, THPS 2X, any %, THPS 1, THPS 2X, all goals and golds, THPS 1, THPS 2, THPS 2X. Along with having more content and a different engine, THPS 2X and THPS 1 careers are done after the main story mode of THPS 2, and with manuals that makes both career modes significantly easier to play based on higher stats and easier combos. Although it was initially rumored that Dark Shabara plotted to do this category, it was the combined efforts of Yosh, Rushy, and CMAC that resulted in the 100% category, yes, Gaps 2, to finally come to fruition in Thug 1. Similar to the likes of Project 8, runners retry goals several times so they have a better jump off point to get all the gaps in each surrounding area along with other pickups like tapes and secret levels. A very hectic run, but definitely a much different beast than any other Thug run just the same. Here lies another handheld Tony Hawk game based loosely off of Thaw, Tony Hawk's American Skateland, is another game that saw a recent formation. Once again, this isn't a game I'm familiar with, having never touched it at all, but needs mention regardless, so shoutouts to Yosh and CMAC for getting this in here. Before I get too much into things, here's some things to keep in mind. Games such as Thug 2 and Thaw experience splits in leaderboards in regards to NG or NG+ runs, meaning speed manuals and major trick modifications made pre-run would be delegated to NG+ for Thug 2, and having a spray tag already placed in your save folder and certain instances of having more cash sooner due to completion of a certain amount of specific bum goals from a previous run would be exiled to the NG+ banner for Thaw. Arguably, this resulted in certain runs that may have been beaten under the unified any % banner fell into world record status for the newly formed NG or NG+ split categories. I guess that's how it works technically. Now, certain long-standing runs or claimed times with no active video proof I do not count towards longest standing records for each game in this video, so that includes things like Sorcerer's 547 and THPS 3 any %, Vampiril 14's Thaw Easy any % 11145, Chronos 5743 for Thug 1 Beginner any %, And even the runs from forever ago that do have video proof but are difficult to take into account because there's such a huge time lapse in any available runs from the SDA era to the Justin.tv/Twitch.tv era. So I kind of disqualify runs like Discombobulators 642 THPS 1 any percent, Heem's 30-minute Thug 2 normal any percent run, Maskel's 1812 Thug 2 easy any percent run. Lastly, even if the same runner beats their previous run but no one else does, the record was still beaten by someone, so it no longer stands. It's done. This is especially important for players like George, Packle, Domaker, Guy With, Fog, Gwisht, and so forth. Here are the current longest standing runs of all time that remain unbeaten.
But I feel like when I finally get, I feel like I can do that.
It's full loaded into the early game.
Much like the old THPS 2 song, out with the old, in with the new. Here are all the new world record runs of the year. Heading into 2019, there's a few things here and there to look out for, and I actually got a really good question in regards to what I think the most and least optimized games are, and potential time saves for each games. I obviously do not run all these games and aren't super privy to certain games, but I'll try. I actually had to reach out to certain community figures of each game, so shoutouts to you guys, thank you so much for your input. So it was found out that using auto kick off is actually faster, so there's a potential improvement for not just THPS 1 any percent, but for any other game that has that option. And there was this potential tape jump in Downhill Jam. Who's got the nuts to try it? And we have Nami, who is going through a bunch of the individual level leaderboard runs and either tying the records or taking them over. This kind of bears resemblance to other runners, Startup, like Crad or Domaker or Rushy, before they really broke out into any percent world record contention. So I think once Nami feels a little bit more comfortable, we're going to see some big moves from him, and he has a lot of time save on Downhill Jam in his PB, and potential time saves even over George due to the menuing mistakes he made following his Chicago completion. And maybe throw in a couple more task improvements, I don't know. I mean, this game is getting down to the wire, really, I think. I think it's one of the more optimized ones I've seen. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of moving parts, but the runners have done really well with putting everything together in a nice little package. THPS 1 100% and THPS 3 all goals and golds seem to follow similar problems. There was a lot of hype built around them leading up to their respective GDQ showcases, and then for the most part they've just fallen off. While Remedy and George's most recent PBs for this category are unrecorded, Gwish scraped together some improvements, although there still exists a few notable errors. In Warehouse, the combination of a small bump off the taxi, not using the task route that has since been adopted by George and Nami, leads to a lot of time save to be had. A small boost heading towards the fountain after special grinding this ledge, missing the wall right to A in downtown, a more efficient burnside section involving verting up to the barrier with a few higher point tricks and dropping off with a Benihana and Madonna combination, and cleaning up San Fran. In the IL world record by George, he nails the cop cars with expertise. Nice landing on the first one and clipping the two cars with a single air. Also opting to go out of the exit door instead of the window is another time save and another small optimization of landing on a rail after busting out the window to maintain speed. Wished also bailed on his first Roswell heat. All these in combination with auto kickoff, that's a lot of time save to be had. For 2x, all goals and golds and careers has about 2 minutes to save off of Packle's sum of best, and any percent actually has about 30 seconds left with it. So, funny thing to note, Packle has essentially pulled a George and gotten a new world record in this very category. I'm not sure what the time is, and there's no video proof of it, but it was witnessed by several of the former Tony Hawk alumni, so shoutouts to Packle. While all goals and golds for THPS 3 went the other direction, George got a new world record both during and after GDQ and then dropped it. After this, the late TLT member Fate clutched the crown away from him and held it for a long time virtually unopposed. Since then, the now deleted video of GamerGuy's run has topped the list, so yeah, a bit of a weird spot. While Fate and GamerGuy's Foundry, Canada, Airport, Skater Island, and LA segments are very close, if not the same, there are a few key improvements to be made. GamerGuy would utilize a different combo for faster Rio heats. It starts off similarly with a shuffle into a judo, but quickly diverges shortly thereafter. Using the one-wheel nose manual to pivot, much like in any percent, and launching off the fun box, much like in Fate and George's runs, GamerGuy veers off to the left, acquiring the gap, doing a 360 flip from the left side of the wires to the right, doing a special grind kiss to the rail before jumping off the wires while doing a 360-degree spin 540 tail whip. In Suburbia, GamerGuy actually nails the grind off the wooden planks up to the power lines that Fate had missed in his run. Pretty notable time save. Also, not sure if this even matters, but instead of doing a wide arcing turn, GamerGuy triggers the Thin Man completion and smacks into the house after finishing a job, immediately turning himself around. I've seen it done in a different spot in Fogg's TAS as an actual strat, so maybe worth mentioning. Speaking of Fogg's TAS and the absolute mindfuck that is the Suburbia portion, he performs what I'd compare to the Valve cutscene skip in Foundry. Slightly reversing the goal order and getting just within range of the Thin Man, but going to the menu before the cutscene pops up, and you can save yourself about half a second and still get the goal completion. Probably will be a while before anything like this is needed though. In cruise ship, Gamer Guy was a little quicker to get the tape than the former world record holder, but neither used the slide as a jump off point to the wire like George or the TAS does, giving George the edge over both in cruise ship. These are the main differences I could find apart from Gamer Guy having better execution in his speedrun overall. Pretty similar ideas in place here. So, Gwish tweeted out he could theoretically achieve a 2-minute 40-something time in THPS 2 any percent, but he really just lacks the motivation due to scarce competition. He even went so far to allow Unilad to publish his run on their Facebook page, hoping to draw in more attention to the game. Gwish has supposedly 1 to 2 seconds to save off Skate Street and Philly together, and 2 full seconds off the closing level bull ring. Perhaps it won't make much more difference than any percent, but in all goals and goals, it was found out that Rodney was the better choice over Jamie Thomas. With -1 speed stat and -1 ollie stat over Jamie, he has slightly less speed in hanger, but doesn't get as much hang time off the ground, probably saving a few frames here and there. So for all goals and golds, Ace actually rose to the occasion and knocked the top 2 runner, Ty Please, off his pedestal, and I'm interested to see if he takes it further. I definitely think he has the potential to. Once again, Gwish can save time over all goals and golds as well, with an 11-some minute sum of best, and Ace having the edge over him in hanger. There's some time saves definitely there to whomever is willing to put it all together. Even add in the holy grail of all goals in one run, School 2, you get a really sick run there, but I still honestly don't know how useful the duplication glitch is. If you don't know what that is, I mentioned it in the Old Legends New Blood video, and I'm interested to see how useful the duplication glitch can be. I think there's a lot of potential there. For THPS 3 any percent, apart from maybe a TAS adaptation here and there, I don't see too many improvements, albeit I don't run the game myself. But with THPS 3 any percent, Jamie, Bam, Officer Dick is just one group of skaters out of many. I know George did a bit of routing for the Jeff Rowley group, and other runners have done some CAS routing, but they're nowhere near the level of the first group. It's just really optimal, looks really clean. Point squeezing has pretty much reached its maximum. Vert skaters they are at a major disadvantage. The tricks that the street skaters have to do are much quicker to do, much more in the way, and as for the skate letters and how they'd fit into the route, it's just kind of a big question mark. I don't think anyone's really looked into it too much. Kind of a weird spot for that one too. They'd really have to put in a major effort with the other skaters if they even wanted to hope to get to the level that the Jamie, Bam, and Officer Dick runs are at right now. THPS 4 has really just been Crad Zone central, although he did lose some time on his early game from college to Kona. You could definitely see some improvement there if somebody is willing to put in the effort. The rest of his run is just really solid. I know the rising star Rushy has rose quickly to the 2nd place spot, and he's been grinding out some of those individual goal world records, so maybe Rushy will give Crad a run for his money in the future. I know he rose very quickly in Thug 1, he's taken Thug 2 now, so THPS 4 might be next, we'll have to see. Although I think the goal choices are pretty solid, you never know when there might be a new glitch found. We'll just have to keep our eyes peeled in the individual goals sort of section of the leaderboard. I know a lot of awesome finds have been made through there, so potentially there might be, I don't know, a route change, there might be time saves here and there. It's just really the best place to look because everything's dissected down to a science at that point. Thug 1, apart from the 3rd Thug 1 sweep in history by Rushy and movement up the ladder by the enigma that is Hood 61, Thug 1 has been mostly a ghost town, with many runners using Thug 1 as a starting point and then branching off elsewhere. Not many stick around for very long anymore. Rushy's beginner any percent run is good, that's for damn sure, but there are a few blunders. I think maybe if he uses like the boneless for the Tampa Party boat trick that I had here, that might be like a minor time save. Starting with Speak Hawaiian and then going to Get Laid, I think that's another time save here and there. In Moscow, there's a slightly faster anonymous color strat involving grinding the inner circle instead of the outer one, and better lip trick execution for New Jersey 2. There's always room for more combo improvements as well, I'm sure, and I'm still holding out for some damn Tampa skips. Like, where is that? Where's the bounty? let's get it done. But Thug 1, unlike most other games, it just kind of has like a denominator. It's like, oh, you need to do 3 goals out of 5. So really the goals, unless something crazy gets found, are pretty well selected as well. Thug 2 experienced several shifts in power. While Guy With was the first player in history to get a sub 7-minute time in easy any percent, other players such as Tyler 4711 and Ace fought for power. But when the dust settled, it was Rushy who was left standing once again. Rushy became the second player in recent history to capture both world records in the fastest categories for the underground games, and with the board split it gave Rushy new motivation to overtake Guy With both with and without speed manuals. With easy and normal out of the way, all that remains is sick any percent. Something I really noticed for the easy any percent runs of Thug 2 was if they had parts of each run in one solid run, it could just be perfect. Like, Rushy does some things better than Ace, Ace does some things better than Rushy, the NG world record has some things better than the NG plus world record. So for Rushy's run, he could save some frames here and there by using Mike Vallely over Rodney Mullen because he actually has a faster speed stat in game, but the result is kind of negligible. He had kind of a sloppy third car hop, and I know if you grind the second last bench and you're already buffering a right turn input off that bench combo in Barcelona, you can kind of get a sharper hairpin turn over to the arcade machine that you need to go to. His dung air, if it worked first try, that would have been perfect. Unfortunately it did not, so I think there was a little bit of a slip up there. Ace's Nada spins are just kind of better than Rushy's, it seems. He just did it really quick, nailed him out. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe cutscene skips for Jesse and the Jester and Bigfoot are going to become more and more needed as it gets more optimized. I know in NG Plus, Rushy was a little bit disoriented after coming out of the sewer, and Ace, once again, has some things better than Rushy here. His butt slap to the balloon, his mind spine turnaround tree Nada spin, if he did that perfect, that would have been really sick, and probably a time save. Minor time save with the Bigfoot clear the pathway, he did it. And Rushy actually didn't use the Bigfoot sign transfer, which would have saved some time. He went back and switched to his character just for the safe bet. And for NG, the run that trumped Guy With, but that's not all. We also saw C-Mac finally close out the classic any percent world record with new innovations and a rare miss in downhill jam. We saw a strong use of buffering multiple double fistons, which was a really quick combo builder, some very clever setups for things like Skatopia and so forth. Not sure how useful it is, but you could potentially even include, like before you go off a ramp with a butt slap, you can, towards the tail end of it, buffer out a flat ground spin and get another quick multiplier boost there. Just really trying to optimize combos, and maybe that might help. And potentially using Indy 900 butt slaps in place of regular butt slaps. That might be the next big step. But the category is really winding down. There's not many more improvements to go. While one may imagine that because other completionist categories are less refined, that Thug 2 100% would be the same, but Ace has put a lot of work into it. He's brought it down a tremendous amount from its initial starting point. There's still some execution errors here and there, and perhaps a little bit more gap routing that could be done, but it's still a pretty good run, I'd say. Thaw finally saw the longest standing proven easy any percent of all time by waves fall to both Crofty and Nage respectively. Now in Thaw, there's a strat called save and quit, where if you quit when you enter a certain loading zone and hit continue, you can be warped in a different spot. So your skater can be placed in a more preferential spot, closer to certain goals, but each time you do it, the unstable Thaw game might crash. Essentially, each save and quit you do, you're cutting a wire when defusing a bomb, and the more wires you cut, you might make the bomb explode or the game crash in this instance. But since the controversial mod Thaw.ext has been brought to the surface and allowed use of, there's actually a lot more opportunities for save and quits without the game crashing. So there's a lot more time saves to be had. And ergo, Crofty has made a list of a bunch of potential save and quits that would save you time. Now it's just going to take somebody to go through and incorporate all of these into one solid run. So hopefully we'll see that in 2019. On the flip side of the coin, Ben held up on the normal and sick NG front, but Nage has taken ground away from Ben in easy NG. Packle made a return to Project 8 any percent and had made the adjustment of playing on the faster patch of the game. Fog did some reworkings of routes of both categories for Project 8. For the story mode, making use of classic goals for Factory and Fun Park. This in turn benefited both players. Beside a minute to save off the current record from some mistakes here and there, it will most likely be small optimizations and the theory hopefully one day usable idea of Tony Early. For anyone wondering, Tony Early was described as Packle as being a weird neural plant-like thing. If you force yourself to bail during the wall plant animation, you can go flying. There was a theory that once you do all of the tricks with Jason Lee at the very end of the game, you could skip straight to Tony's trigger. But keep in mind, there's very little time to do it, it might not even be possible, and you only get one shot at it, or else it's curtains for you. Fog also saw improvement in any percent, but also his all secret spots category as well. Vast improvements were made to the route of the category due to an easier clip route from school to slums, leading to a several minute improvement. After Thaw and Thug 2 experienced new world records, they've calmed down quite a bit with little needle movement. THPS 2, THPS 3, THPS 4, Thug 1, THPS HD, and THPS 5 have had long-lasting leaders sitting atop their first place spot with 1 or 2 challengers at most. THPS 4, 141 goals, Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam, and Tony Hawk's Proving Ground have had an overall limited amount of runs submitted throughout history, leading me to wonder the chunks of time saves that could be hiding beneath the surface. Tony Hawk Ride and Tony Hawk Shred, non-existent. There's nothing there. Not even one run I've seen.